Hello and welcome to my channel, Tyrant Lizard King Edits. Today we are taking a further look into the history of life on Earth and how everything began. Introduction. This includes the formation of the Earth, the atmosphere of the Earth, the emergence of the first organisms, and the Precambrian history. And before we start, let's clear out some basic and important information about what we're dealing with in today's video. Our Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. The first organisms already developed 3.8 billion years ago, but they were small and unicellular. It took another 3 billion years for the multicellular organisms to develop in the oceans. In this long span of time, a lot of animal species have evolved while older ones died out. Within a mass extinction occurrence, a lot of animal and plant species disappear. After the extinction, new organisms start to develop. The scale of the geological time of Earth is divided into four large eons: the Hadean Eon, the Archean Eon, the Proterozoic Eon, and the Phanerozoic Eon. Within the eons there are four large eras. The first era being the Precambrian, which lasted from 4.5 billion to 541 million years ago and is divided into three eons, that being the Hadean, Archean, and Proterozoic. The second era being the Paleozoic, which lasted around 541 to 252 million years ago, and is divided into six different periods, that being the Cambrian, Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Carboniferous, and Permian. The third era, and the most popular out of all four, is the Mesozoic, which lasted around 252 to 66 million years ago and is divided into three periods, that being the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. And last but not least is the Cenozoic era, which lasted from 66 million years ago to the present day, and is divided into three periods, that being the Paleogene, Neogene, and Quaternary. It's also the era in which we humans live in today. The Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic era are all within the Phanerozoic Eon. Now that we've gathered and covered all of the basic and important information needed for the following story, let's get started. Our journey starts here at the Precambrian era. 4.5 billion years ago, our proto-Earth was a dispersed cloud of interstellar gas. At that time, literally not a single life form existed on Earth, not even unicellular organisms. 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized proto-planet named Theia collided with Earth, which caused both fragments and rock shell materials from Earth and Theia to spun off. This collision is also responsible for the formation of the Moon that we know of today. Since the fragments and rock shell materials that were blasted off formed a ring around Earth, and in a time process of 40 years, the Moon is formed from the ring. The Earth was covered in huge layers of magma and barren rocks, while also constantly getting hit by meteor showers, indeed a hellfire of an Earth. Welcome to the Hadean Eon, named after the Greek god Hades. The atmosphere back then, 4.5 to 4 billion years ago, consisted mostly of carbon dioxide, CO2, unlike the atmosphere of our Earth today, which consists mostly of nitrogen, N. A few hundred million years after the beginning of Earth, unicellular organisms start to appear and the Earth cools down and rains for millions of years. Oceans begin to form on our planet from the constant rain. This process happened within the Archean Eon, approximately 4 to 2.5 billion years ago. There are many speculations about how the first life forms may have emerged on Earth, whether it be from small and warm alkaline pools that formed near volcanoes RNA, or if the first life forms originated from organic molecules that came from hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor. However, it remains unclear which of these hypotheses is the most plausible explanation to the origin of life. The one that prevails the most is the dispersion of organic molecules from hydrothermal vents in the ocean floor. It all starts with the first unicellular organisms called prokaryotes, which replicate their genetic information and divide to multiply more of themselves until there are billions of them. These early life forms then proceed to photosynthesize themselves by taking solar energy from the early sun. The oxygen produced in this process later on appears in the now totally different atmosphere. Millions of years later, with a mix of gases which allow larger and more complex life to develop, multicellular organisms. And then eukaryotic cells start to appear which can sustain multicellular organisms and allow them to develop. This is when the first multicellular organisms first appeared in the oceans around 1 billion years ago in the late Proterozoic Eon. In the long span of time of the Precambrian era, a lot of supercontinents were formed and disfigured depending on how the tectonic plates of the oceans moved. Also, in the Cryogenian period at least 2 glaciations happened, which led to an Earth planet covered in ice sheets. This is commonly referred to as the snowball Earth hypothesis, which in the geological time scale would have taken place 640 to 710 million years ago. Each glaciation lasted about 10 million years. The Sturtian at around 710 million years ago, and the Marinoan at 640 million years ago. The evidence for this hypothesis lies within the glacial deposits found in the equator and also by using climate modeling. The main causes for these glaciation events are low concentration levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and other greenhouse gases like methane. Changes in solar energy output may have been also one of the reasons for the occurrence of these glaciation events. Now let's take a look at the formation of supercontinents that were formed and disformed along the Precambrian era in the right order. Kinnerland, one of the first supercontinents to have formed 2.7 billion years ago and broke up 2.5 billion years ago. Nuna, Columbia, a supercontinent which formed 1.8 billion years ago and broke up 1.3 billion years ago. Followed by Rodinia, the next supercontinent that formed around 1.2 billion years ago and disfigured 750 million years ago. Now, of course, the full history of the universe extends to 13.8 billion years ago when the Big Bang explosion happened, which led to the expansion of billions of galaxies. But the main focus of this introduction video is to explain the beginning of life on Earth, which takes place billions of years after the Big Bang explosion, and this video also serves as an understanding of geological time as well as other important information about paleontology and etc. Thanks for watching, and let me know if there's something you'd like to add by commenting. Saya.